Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and we are here for Wednesday's daily talk of stock. And as we could see by the heat map here on screen, we had an overall green day in the markets, quite the push forward. And myself, I am very excited. I am very happy for a multitude of reasons. First, I am finally feeling better. As many of you know, I have been very rough over the last couple weeks, so finally getting myself back to health, and the markets are getting back to health, pushing forward, because we do know that the Federal Reserve this year has been stagnant with their interest rate cut decision. Jerome Powell has said that he is waiting for the data to present itself to give the markets its first rate cut for the year. But on a very, very positive note, when we go to the CME Group's Fed cut rate monitor tool, we could see that now we have a 95% projection for September for there to finally be a rate cut. And this is a relief. We know that many Americans, investors, and the president want to see a rate cut. And Jerome Powell has stuck stagnant with his decision to maintain on the course of fighting inflation and not being influenced by any decisions, saying that he is just waiting for the data to present itself. But on Friday, we did have some horrible data around the jobs report. The number missed significantly. Trump did fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but because of all that chaos, it has greatly improved the chances that we will actually see a rate cut in September. Now, with there being a 95% projection that we actually get a rate cut. And if you don't understand the significance of this, with the Federal Reserve, they have their funds rate, and what they do with that funds rate will greatly influence the markets. What do I mean? Well, I have here on screen a little thing that I have created, and this just shows the federal funds rate next to the Dow Jones Industrial over time since the 80s. So I got this chart here, which is the Fed funds rate. This just shows the interest rate, and then next to that I have the Dow Jones Industrial, which shows how the market has reacted over time to that federal funds rate. And what we could see here is pretty shocking, and it really is a telling sign showing that what the Federal Reserve does really does influence the markets, because we could see that in times, and again, this is going since the 80s, while the Fed funds rate was high, the markets were low and slow. But as soon as we have seen the Federal Reserve bring down that rate, we have seen a big pump within the markets, with the last year's it getting extremely crazy because of all the quantitative easing in the markets. And this is why so many investors have their eyes on the Federal Reserve and what they are doing, including the president, because as soon as the Fed funds rate comes down, that just means that we are in a more stimulative time period, and easy money has more of an opportunity to run. We go from hard pennies to easy dollars. And so with that being said, I'm going to say exactly what I said in yesterday's video when things didn't look quite as bullish, and that is that I have a long-term picture mentality on the markets, and I am going to prepare myself now before we get that Fed rate cut coming in September. Again, a 95% projection. And so with that, we're going to talk about three different plays, two that we have, actually one that we have never talked about on this channel, and one other that we haven't talked about for a long time. And then the other is a favorite on this channel, but all are centered around cryptocurrency, because when the Fed rate cut does come and money gets a little bit more stimulative and easy, the crypto sector tends to be one of the sectors that runs the hardest. So we're going to start out with BMNR, Bitmine Immersion. If you know what that is, Tom Lee is the CEO. A lot of potential in that stock. We're then going to go into MicroStrategy. We talked a lot about this stock last year. It has been a little bit of a rough year for this stock, but a lot of intrinsic value. And then we are going to finish with a favorite on this channel, that is DJT, Trump Media and Technology Group. So we're going to start out here with Bitmine Immersion, BMNR. And if you don't know about this company, they recently did have their initial public offering and it went insane. This stock went from being valued under $10, shot all the way up to 130, did eat some red candlesticks, and now has fallen a bit sideways into some consolidation. And the CEO of this company is Tom Lee. If you know who Tom Lee is, you know that he is very bullish on the markets. He's one of the investors who during April wasn't panicking. Me and Tom Lee, we are both bulls on the market, but he was on national television talking about how he expected the markets to recover and there was no reason to panic. And well, he was right, because since then we have had the hated V recovery by many and the markets have pushed very bullish. But myself, I am very excited for this company right here, because not only is Tom Lee the CEO, but this company right here is the biggest company when it comes to having a reserve for Ethereum. We could see that their holdings exceed 833,000 tokens valued in excess of 2.9 billion, the largest Ethereum treasury in the world. And so we know that a lot of companies have started to adopt the strategy that MicroStrategy did, which we're going to talk about here in a second, but is where you create a Bitcoin reserve within your company, create a crypto reserve, because the inflation is always going crazy. If you just have cash sitting on the sideline, it doesn't really do much for you. So having a reserve in Bitcoin or some type of asset allows these companies to have a boost within their balance sheet and actually see some return on investment in what would otherwise just be some slow moving cash. And so with them being the top company for Ethereum, I think that this is a great opportunity while it is beat down. When we just look at the technical analysis, of course, when we look at the candlestick chart, even though it IPO'd not long ago, we are starting to build a little bit of a chart here, not much, but we could see that we have been pretty flat. So we are quite a ways away from where we were at those 52-week highs. When we look at the relative strength index, we are sitting right at a 50-50 spot. And then what really looks positive is when we look at the MACD, we could see that with all the bleeding, that there is now the opportunity that we do see a reversal in price. If we see the blue cross back over the orange, we could see a lot of bullish momentum in this company right here. And I believe that we will see a lot of bullish momentum in Ethereum, because when we talk about cryptocurrencies, Ethereum is one of the cryptocurrencies that really has been the most flat over the last year and over the last 5 years. So a lot of anticipation, a lot of consolidation building in Ethereum, and really it's only a matter of time until we see a big rip up in Ethereum as well as the entire cryptocurrency market. And again, this big rip up could be starting right in September when we do see the next big rate cut coming. And so myself, I do hold a small position in BMNR. It's nothing crazy, but I do have a lot of faith in what will come with this company. It is still relatively new though. So again, I just have a small position, and that is exactly how I would recommend any investors to take advantage of this, because personally, I do think that we are going to see a big pop coming up in the markets, but let's remember that the markets could always flip us on our heads. Just because the rate cut decision is coming doesn't mean that things will get more bullish. Most likely they will, and most investors are looking for the rate cut to be the bullish spark in the markets, but we truly never know. So just like I always tell investors, just don't over leverage yourself, because the markets really are a marathon and not a race. Put yourself into great buying opportunities and catch the stocks while they are low. And if the stocks do fall more, August could still potentially be a bit of a shaky month. Well, that will just present yourself with an opportunity to buy more. So now we're going to go into the next stock, which is MicroStrategy. And this is the company that really started it all when we talk about having Bitcoin and crypto reserves within companies. MicroStrategy's CEO is Michael Saylor, and he is famous for adopting the Bitcoin wheel strategy. And that is where this company constantly buys more Bitcoin, adding it to their balance sheet. They are one of the biggest companies when it comes to having a Bitcoin reserve. And most recently, they just had a massive earnings. So they just had their earnings report on July 31st, and they absolutely crushed expectations. As we could see, their earnings came in at 32.60 per share, which beat Wall Street's expectations of a loss of 12 cents per share. So they had an absolutely killer earnings. When we go to Earnings Hub right here, we could see just where they came in at. What a difference. So Wall Street was expecting negative 7 cents per share. They were expecting MicroStrategy to come in with a losing quarter, but instead they came in with their biggest quarter ever, absolutely crushing expectations. But the markets this last week have been pretty bearish. A lot of people were freaked out. So MicroStrategy still did take a dip on their earnings, but now this just presents a good opportunity for any investors who want to hop into MicroStrategy for the first time, because while the stock has dipped unfairly, truly, we are looking low on the relative strength index and on the MACD. So just like BMNR, it really is lining up to have another big rip up here very soon. And if you know anything about MicroStrategy, this is really one of those companies that could really run with a lot of volatility. Not long ago, at the beginning of the year, we were all the way up to $500 per share in MicroStrategy. And at one point, MicroStrategy was actually outpacing Bitcoin when it comes to actual return on investment. But the year started off pretty rough. MSTR got beat up like a lot of other stocks, and it has had a little bit of a recovery since April, but we could still go a lot higher, and we're not even to the 52-week high, which was at 500, which hit when Bitcoin initially hit 100,000. So think about that. MicroStrategy was at its highest point when Bitcoin was at 100,000. Now Bitcoin sits around 115 to 120,000, and MicroStrategy still is a bit beat down. So I'm taking this opportunity to buy into MicroStrategy. And also something else that I wanted to talk about with MicroStrategy's earnings that I thought was pretty big. A lot of people will give this company flack. They will say that they are basically a dead company and all they have behind them is their Bitcoin reserve. But we could see that in their Q2 earnings on this report, their second quarter of 2025, the product license and subscription service revenue, so actually around their actual company, jumped 44% year over year to 48 million and accounted for 41% of the revenues, which was a 100% software subscription services soared 70% year over year. So overall, this company, what they are actually doing as a company, despite all the flack that everybody has given MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, we could see that the company is still thriving and they are still performing and they are getting better. Again, a 44% jump year over year. And this doesn't even include the Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And then when we do just talk about what this company is doing with Bitcoin, they currently hold 628,791 Bitcoins. So this company right here is greatly positioned into Bitcoin. And again, if you want to take advantage of the Bitcoin and the crypto rise that is coming, MicroStrategy is a great company to do that with. And again, their actual business model, despite what a lot of the bears say about MicroStrategy, actually is looking positive. And so just like I said with BTMR, with MicroStrategy, I have entered into a position on this play, but I am not over leveraging myself. I am just putting myself in the position for when that rate cut comes. And the way I am actually doing this is with MSTU, which is the double leveraged MicroStrategy. And if you've never played with these double leveraged stocks and ETFs, I definitely suggest doing a little bit of dabbling into them, because basically what all these double leveraged plays will do is when the normal underlying company goes up by 1%, these derivatives will go up by 2%. So they go up at double the speed, double the pace than the normal company does. So if you just want to take advantage of a company's momentum swing towards the upside, going double leveraged is a great place to do that, because just think about it in this sense. If you say have $1,000 to put into a stock, say you put $1,000 into MicroStrategy. If MicroStrategy goes up by 1%, well, that's great. If you have 1% on 1,000, you will go up by $10. But let's say you just put in $500 into MicroStrategy's double leveraged play here, MSTU. If the MSTR goes up by 1%, you go up by 2%, essentially having the same move with just half of the money. And if you really want to go out there, and if you really do have an appetite for big risk and big reward, you could throw all 1,000 into MSTU and really take advantage of that double leverage. But myself, with these double leveraged plays, I always do thin down a little bit, but that is just so I could put myself into more great plays and opportunities. And so again, while MSTR is beat down, I think that now is a great buying opportunity before that rate cut comes, and while we are still a month away, because I do believe the markets will continue to get more bullish, and I think things are going to get crazy coming up into that rate decision. So I want to take advantage of this while these stocks are still beat down and while they don't have the most eyes on them, because when we're just talking about buying into great opportunities, it really is always better to do them while they are beat down, while they are looking low on indicators such as the relative strength index and the MACD, which BMNR and MicroStrategy look like that. And then our next company also looks very beat down, a favorite on this channel. I have been talking about it forever, and because we are pushing more into the mass adoption into cryptocurrency, we of course have to talk about the president who is pushing us more into the mass adoption into cryptocurrency. cryptocurrency. So really, it's been everything that Donald Trump has done over this last year that is really making it so possible for the mass adoption into cryptocurrency, and why all these companies are so bullish and doing these big reserves, because the president this last year has cut a lot of red tape around cryptocurrency and around the kind of annoying regulations. We also saw the big genius bill get passed recently, which was all around stable coins. And so it is no secret that we are pushing more into this world of internet currency and digital currency, cryptocurrency, and DJT, the stock, not the president, but the stock, the president's stock, is taking advantage of this mass push. So we have covered this stock extensively from last year, and going back into last year, this company has done a lot, including filing for cryptocurrency ETFs. They also recently did their big Bitcoin treasury purchase, fifth largest out of any company. They have a Bitcoin reserve up to 2.5 billion. And not only does DJT have a big reserve within Bitcoin, but with their last earnings report that just came out recently, they came out with some very positive news, and that was that they had their first ever positive quarter of operating cash flow. So a great sign to see from DJT. We know that this company in general is a lot newer. They came from a SPAC earlier a couple years back, and so they have just worked their way through a lot of the annoying factors of becoming a new company, just really having to position themselves. And a lot of bears have hated on DJT, talking about how this company hasn't had the best quarterly earnings, how this company hasn't produced the most revenue, but that's just because they have really been positioning themselves for the opportunity that is to come, which is going to be the big rip in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And so this company is greatly positioned for that. They now do have their Bitcoin treasury. This company also has filed for a lot of crypto ETFs. And in general, DJT is Trump Media and Technology Group, really is more of a fintech company around banking services, cryptocurrency, everything like that, more than just being a truth social platform at this point. And so while the stock is still beat down, while it is under $20, I think that this is a great opportunity to pick up your DJT. When we just look at the technical analysis, we are very low on the candlestick chart. Basically, at the basement on the relative strength index, we are at a very low point at just 29. And on the MACD, it does also appear that we could be having a reversal here in the near term. And if we just look at the history of DJT, this company really started to skyrocket towards the upside last year in September, right around September 20th. So funny enough, literally 1 year ago from when the rate cut will come this year, most likely. The rate cut right around September. So the last time DJT started to fly was last September. I totally think that we could have that again. And I still believe that this company should be valued a lot higher than it currently is. But that's okay with me, because while it is low, I am taking the opportunity to buy more DJT and these other cryptocurrency plays also. So with the rate cut coming up, this is how I am positioning myself, because the cryptocurrency sector always seems to be one of the hardest runners when money is more stimulative and easy, which is the time period that we will be entering in September, as long as this rate cut does come. Again, there's a 95% projection that it will. The markets can be a little bit unpredictable at times. I am not going to throw out the possibility that us investors get thrown out onto our heads if Jerome Powell really does have Trump derangement syndrome and still doesn't cut rates. But if that were to happen, there there would be a lot of chaos and a lot of eyes on Jerome Powell. So I think he's going to do the right thing, and I think he is going to cut rates. And remember, this year there is a projected 2 rate cuts. So September will be the first, and then we'll have to see when the next will come, whether that will be October, November, December. But in general, things are looking a lot more bullish, and this is really what the markets have been looking for all year. Again, when we just return to the little side-by-side chart that I created here, the markets really do run off of this federal funds rate. So it's almost obvious when you compare these two side by side. As the Fed rate cut, as the Fed funds rate goes down, the markets push up. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else thinks in the comments section below. We are so close to 2,000 subscribers, by the way, just one away, 1,999. Who's going to be the lucky 2,000? Thank you guys so much, as always, for being here today. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. You may be lucky 2,000. Also, please leave a like and please leave a comment in the section below. I would love to hear what you think about what is coming up, how you are preparing yourself into the markets, or if you are bullish on any of these plays. I thank you guys as always for being here, and I will see you in the next daily talk of stocks.